There's a moment in this work that almost every man hits. He's been recognizing the pattern. He's been pausing. He's been adjusting. He is trying, genuinely trying, because he is working to become the man he knows himself to be underneath all of this. Then one day he stops and asks himself, what's wrong with me? Why does this pattern keep coming back? What is wrong with me? That question sounds like defeat. It isn't. I'm Stephen Rodi. This is Course Correction, where men find their way back to themselves. Where that question comes from, what it actually is asking, and where it leads, that's what we're going to look at today. Last week I asked you to make one small adjustment. Whatever happened with that, good, messy, or somewhere in between, brought you here. That matters. We're going to start with something that sounds simple, because the truth often does. Imagine you're a child, and imagine you experience a candle for the first time. You're drawn to it, the brightness of the light, the warmth of the flame. And as you approach it, you reach out to touch the flame. And as you touch it, you burn yourself. You're hurt. Ouch. You pull your finger away, and maybe you run to your parents and cry. So you've had an experience that's caused pain. You have information that your brain now has awareness around. So let's say you go to the next day and you approach another candle. This time, as you're drawn to it, just like you were the day before, you reach out to touch it. But in your mind, there's information that you're starting to use. So this experience from the day before provides you information that you're drawing on. So this information is becoming knowledge as you start to consider your choice. Maybe you choose to touch it again and need additional information, get burned again. Or maybe you choose to pull away because you know that if you touch it, you'll be burned. So now you see what's happened. Stage one is in experience to information. Stage two is information to knowledge. And then stage three, where you choose something differently. You choose to not touch the candlelight. That's doing something for your own good. So now knowledge becomes wisdom. So that process that culminates with that pause and that choice to not touch the flame again, that's where the learning actually lives. So if we look at our situation that we're talking about today, we look at stage one, where experience becomes information. When you first touch the candle, so when your pattern first shows up, all you have is the burn, that raw sensation. Pain is the data. And most men in this stage do what nervous systems are designed to do. They react. They pull back. They get angry. They avoid. Maybe self-medicate. Maybe shut down. The information is there in the snap, in the shutdown, in the reaction you regretted the moment it left you. It's all data. And at stage one, you don't know what to do with it yet. You just feel it, and then you move on. You push through. You tell yourself it won't happen again, and you wait for the next trigger. Sound familiar? Most of the men doing this work spent years in stage one, burning, reacting, moving on. Not because they were weak or broken, because no one had ever shown them that the burn was information and that information had somewhere to go. So in stage two, where we consider what the information is telling us, where our information becomes knowledge, that's where we are right now. You see the candle. You recognize the trigger, the pressure, the familiar pull. You pause. You ask the questions. You're considering what's actually true in that moment, not just what your pattern is telling you to do. You're considering whether or not touching the candle is the right thing to do. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, you may make a different choice. See, that is stage 2, and it's real work. It requires intention and practice and the willingness to fail and reset. In a sense, a willingness to touch the candle again. Everything we've built in episodes 1, 2, and 3 has been stage 2 work. Here's what stage 2 feels like from the inside. It feels like the pattern's coming back, that you're not learning. You pause, you adjust, you choose differently. A few days later, the pattern returns. Your capable man brain interprets that as failure. I keep getting burned, as evidence that something is wrong with you, or with the work, or with both, that this isn't working. That's not what it is. The pattern coming back is stage 2 working exactly as it's supposed to. Understanding doesn't arrive after one pause. It builds through many pauses, many adjustments, many resets. You are accumulating something even when you can't feel it, especially when you can't feel it. So in stage 3, as I mentioned earlier, that's where this knowledge, this understanding becomes wisdom. And stage 3 is what we're moving toward. Wisdom is when you don't need the deliberate pause anymore. You see the candle and you already know. Not because you've suppressed the reaction, but because you genuinely understand what you're dealing with. You know if you touch it, it's going to burn, so you don't. You see, you know where it came from, where the pattern came from, what it protects, what it costs. That understanding, that knowledge changes your response without force. And that's what we call wisdom. Stage 3 is not right around the corner, not for the most men. It hasn't been for me. Getting there requires something that stage 2 alone can't give you. It requires going underneath the pattern. Not just recognizing it, not just pausing in it, but asking the harder question. Why does this pattern exist for me specifically? That question, why is this mine? That is what we're going to work with today. So I have a client who had something happen to him recently. And it's really talks about this exact type of situation as far as the stimulus and response experience. He was at the grocery store the other day with his wife and his kids, and they were standing in the checkout line. His youngest daughter, she's about 5 years old, she started playfully hitting him on the leg, trying to get his attention the way 5-year-olds do. He told me that he felt himself tighten up. He felt this tension in his gut, in his shoulders. He felt that snap coming. It was rising in his chest, getting to his throat. He said when he was about to whirl on her, that whirl he'd done many times before with his kids and with his wife, the full force of it landing on whoever happened to be closest. He felt it coming up, and then something stopped him. He recognized what was happening. He took a breath, saw the moment for what it actually was, considered what was in front of him. His little girl, his daughter, reaching for him. He let out his breath, and he let go of the tension that was rising. Instead of whirling, he turned and squatted down to her level. He hugged her, and then he asked her what she needed. All she wanted to know is if she could have some Sour Patch Kids. That was the trigger, a 5-year-old wanting candy. He stood up and looked at his wife. He felt something well up in him that he didn't have words for. Through a choked voice, he told her that he needed to go out to the car and he'd meet them there. He walked out of the store, and as he walked into the parking lot, he said he broke into tears. After his wife came out and he helped her load the groceries and get the kids settled, She looked at him. She had watched him choose differently in the checkout line. She wasn't angry. She was concerned. She asked, "What's going on?" He said, "Why does this keep happening? Why did I feel so much rage, even when I knew it was just Katie wanting candy?" Think about what just happened there. He did everything right. He recognized the pattern. He paused. He considered. He adjusted. His daughter got a hug. His wife saw something new. The framework was executed exactly as it's supposed to. And he ended up crying in a parking lot, asking why. That question, why did I feel that much rage over Sour Patch Kids, isn't a sign that something went wrong. It is the most important question he has asked since he started this work. For the first time, he isn't asking how to manage the pattern. He's asking, where did it come from? That is a completely different question. It leads somewhere completely different. Here is what I want you to understand about your pattern. It isn't a flaw. It's actually a solution. At some point in your life, probably a long time ago, something was happening around you that was real, difficult, probably threatening in some way. You responded the way any intelligent person responds. You found something that could help protect you. You found a way to manage your environment, manage the threat, the uncertainty. Bottom line, you found a way to stay safe. That's why it's still here. Things that don't work don't stay. Patterns persist because at some point they solve something. The problem isn't that the solution was wrong. The problem is that the solution is still running in a life that looks nothing like the one it was built for. Let me show you what I mean. I grew up the middle child of 3 children. I have an older brother and a younger sister. During the years my parents were married, I never had my own room. My sister had her own room when she was young, so my brother and I shared a room. Then, when my brother got older and needed his own space, my sister and I shared a room. The room we shared was large, and at some point, I claimed a corner of it. I had a desk there, and I put shelves above it. I used to collect plastic horses, Breyer horses, and I arranged them exactly the way I wanted them. And my desk was always clean, it was always orderly. But what's interesting is that I remember taking tape and masking off an area around my desk. I put that tape on the carpet to draw a border around the space and define that that was my space. And no one was allowed to sit at my desk or come into my taped off area without me saying it was okay. No one was allowed to touch my things. I didn't understand what I was doing at the time. I do now. In a house where nothing felt stable, where the room you slept in depended on everyone else's needs, where my family was beginning to fracture in ways nobody was naming out loud, I found, 8 square feet I could control. I held on to it with everything I had. Ultimately, my parents divorced and our family moved. I was about 11 years old, and for the first time after we moved, I had my own room, my own door, and the power to close it. What had been tape on the carpet became something bigger, something I defended more fiercely, became more territorial. I could be a real jerk about it. Anyone who came through that door without permission felt the full weight of my response. That closed door at 11 was a step toward a darker place at 14. I won't go there today, but I want you to know it's there because it tells you something about how much weight that door was carrying. So here's the candle logic laid bare. I was a child in an unstable home. The burn was, nothing is stable. Nothing is mine. Nothing is safe. What I learned through experience, through repetition, was this: control my environment and I won't be vulnerable. Control what I can and I won't get hurt. That was a completely sound conclusion. The only reasonable thing available to an 11-year-old Stephen in that situation. The pattern worked. It kept me safe. And the tape is still on the carpet. Not literally, but in the way I respond when something in my space is moved without my permission, in the way I tighten when a plan changes without my input, in the way my shoulders come up when I feel like control is slipping. That child's solution is still running in rooms it was never designed for, with people it was never meant to protect against. This is what it means for you. You have your own tape on your own carpet. You may not know exactly where it is yet, what room it was put down in, or how old you were, what you were trying to hold on to or to protect yourself from. But it's there. It's the reason the pattern keeps coming back. Not because you're broken, and it's not because the work isn't working. It's because the solution that built the pattern has never been examined. You've been trying to change the behavior without asking what the behavior was built to protect. That's what changes now. Remember, in episode 2, I asked you one question. What matters enough to me to change what I'm doing? You found an answer. Maybe it was your marriage. Maybe it was your kids. Maybe it was the man you know yourself to be underneath all of this. That answer was real. The motivation it gave you was real. You've been running on it for weeks. Motivation alone can't reach what hasn't been examined. You answered what matters enough to change. You haven't answered why the pattern exists. You've been driving with the handbrake on, and you didn't know it. The question, what matters enough to me, pointed you toward your values. Stop, look underneath, points you toward the origin. You need both. You couldn't have gotten here without the work you've already done, and the work you've done has brought you to a door. This is what's behind it. So asking yourself why once, about one pattern in one moment, is accessible. That's this week's practice. Following that question all the way down is a different thing. It's a chain. Each why pulling you toward the next, each answer pulling toward a harder question. At a certain depth, that chain leads somewhere personal, specific, and often uncomfortable. Most men hit a wall when they try to follow it all alone, not because they aren't capable, because the courage it takes to keep going past a certain point is genuinely hard to sustain without someone alongside you who knows the terrain. Some of you are going to try this, and it's going to pull on something real. Some of you are going to ask why and find that the question doesn't go very far before something stops it, like a door that won't open. That's not weakness. That's what we're going to talk about next episode. That's a sign that you're on the right track. The man we've been following, remember in the last 3 episodes, my client who's a husband, a father in his early 40s. He's been doing the work. He's been recognizing and he's been pausing, adjusting. And the pattern keeps returning. Something has shifted in him. He's stopped asking how to fix the pattern and started asking something harder. What's wrong with me that I can't get past this? In the tone he's asking it, that question is self-attack. Underneath the tone, underneath the frustration and the heaviness, there's a quieter question trying to surface. Where did this come from? He doesn't have the answer. But for the first time, he's asking in a direction that might actually lead somewhere. That's the turn. Not a resolution, not an arrival, a turn. So this week, pick one moment where the pattern showed up. You already know which one. It came to mind just now. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to fix it. Just stop. Look underneath it. Ask yourself, why is this pattern mine? Where did it come from? You don't need the answer this week. You just need to ask the question and let it sit. Notice what comes up. Notice what you pull away from. Notice where the question wants to go and where it feels like it can't. That noticing, that's the work this week. Next episode, we're going to talk about what gets in the way when you try to look underneath, because some of you are going to ask that question this week and it hit something solid, a resistance you can't quite name, a place where the question stops moving even though you know there's more. That experience has a name, and understanding what it is changes everything about how you approach this work. We'll get into that next time. This is Course Correction. I'm Stephen Rodi. If what we talked about today landed something for you, if the tape on the carpet meant something, if the parking lot meant something, know that what you're feeling right now is the work doing exactly what it is supposed to do. You're not falling apart. You're looking at something real for the first time. You don't have to do that alone. You can find me at yourcoretruths.com. Until next time, stop and look underneath.